We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
A stampede broke out Tuesday at the funeral of a top Iranian general killed in a U.S. drone strike, leaving more than 30 people dead as huge crowds of mourners packed his hometown.
President Duterte said he is expecting Iran to retaliate soon and act aggressively against the U.S. after an American airstrike killed their top general. He appealed to Congress to set aside a day or two to discuss the effects of the U.S.-Iran conflict on the OFWs.
A strong earthquake struck off the south of Puerto Rico early Tuesday. The U.S. Geological Survey said the latest in a series of tremors that have shaken the island since December 28.
Firefighters raced to contain massive bushfires in southeastern Australia Tuesday, taking advantage of a brief drop in temperatures and some much-needed rainfall before another heat wave strikes later this week.
I'm Sam Cypriot, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Myla Simbulan.
And now to the news. A stampede broke out Tuesday at the funeral of a top Iranian general killed in a U.S. drone strike, leaving more than 30 people dead as huge crowds of mourners packed his hometown. The crash in the southeastern city of Kerman came as Iran prepared to bury Revolutionary Guards Commander Qasem Soleimani, a huge popular figure in the Islamic Republic. The assassination of Soleimani set off an escalating war of words between Iran and the United States. In Tehran on Monday, President Hassan Rouhani warned Trump to never threaten Iran after the U.S. leader issued a U.S. strike list of 52 targets in the Islamic Republic. On Sunday night, the United States mistakenly notified the Iraqi government of an imminent troop pullout in a letter that sparked confusion in Washington. We respect your sovereign decision to order our departure, said the letter, whose authenticity was confirmed to AFP by both Iraqi and U.S. defense officials. In the letter, U.S. Brigadier General William Seeley said the U.S.-led coalition would be repositioning forces, but Pentagon Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley and the letter was a mere draft and should not have been sent. It was a mistake, an honest mistake, a draft unsigned letter because we are moving forces around, Milley told reporters in Washington. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said the letter was inconsistent with Washington's position and denied there had been a decision to leave Iraq.
We are repositioning forces throughout the region, number one. Beyond that, with regard to that letter, which I've read once, I can't tell you the veracity of that letter, and I can tell you what I read. That letter is inconsistent with where we are right now. I will tell you this much. I think the Iraqi people don't want us to leave. They know that the United States is there to help them become a sovereign, independent, prosperous country. That is not the intentions of Iran. Iran wants to control them as a proxy state. And I think, actually, there are many Iraqi lawmakers who feel the same way.
NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg warned on Monday that Iran must avoid further violence and provocations after the alliance held emergency talks on the crisis.
At our meeting today, allies called for restraint and de-escalation. A new conflict would be in no one's interest. So Iran must refrain from further violence and provocations. So we have suspended our training mission now because of the security situation on the ground, but we are ready to restart the training when the situation on the ground makes that possible. This is a US decision. It is not a decision taken by neither the global coalition nor NATO, but all allies are concerned about Iran's destabilizing activities in the region, Iran's support to different terrorist groups. I think the important thing now is to really try to de-escalate and to avoid further increased tensions in the region.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on world leaders to de-escalate geopolitical tensions, which he described as being at their highest level this century. Let's listen in.
The new year has begun with our world in turmoil. We are living in dangerous times. Geopolitical tensions are at their highest level this century, and this turbulence is escalating. Even nuclear non-proliferation can no longer be taken for granted. This cauldron of tensions is leading more and more countries to take unpredicted decisions with unpredictable consequences and a profound risk of miscalculation. At the same time, we see trade and technological conflicts that fracture world markets, undermine growth and widen inequalities. And all the while, our planet is on fire, the climate crisis rages on. In many parts of the world, we see people frustrated and angry. We see increased social unrest and growing extremism, nationalism and radicalization, with the dangerous advance of terrorism, notably in Africa. This situation cannot go on. I've been following the recent rise in global tensions with great concern. I'm in constant contact with leading officials around the world. And my message is simple and clear. Stop escalation. Exercise maximum restraint. Restart dialogue. Renew international cooperation. Let us not forget the terrible human suffering caused by war. As always, ordinary people pay the highest price. It is our common duty to avoid it. Thank you.
Russia and China say they strongly oppose the New Year's Eve attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. But Moscow and Beijing say they have decided to block a UN Security Council statement condemning that attack because it doesn't address the subsequent U.S. killing of Iran's top general. Ambassador Zhang Jun, China's permanent representative to the United Nations, stated that China opposes the arbitrary use of force in international relations.
The unilateral risk-taking military actions of the United States violated basic norms of international relations and led to the gravitation of the tension. And for China, we urge the United States not to abuse any further use of force. And we also call on all relevant parties to exercise maximum restraint. The situation there remains very sensitive, fragile, or even dangerous. At this moment, I think the most urgent thing for us, for the whole international community to do, is to prevent the further escalation of the tension.
Also speaking to reporters is Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia. He said that Moscow agreed with the proposed U.S. statement condemning the embassy attack. But he says it would be impossible not to take into account the U.S. killing of General Qasem Soleimani inside Iraq last Friday.
As a principle, we condemn strongly any attack on any embassy anywhere in the world, whatever country it is, and we strongly condemn the attack on the American embassy in Baghdad. And the press statement, the presidential statement, was nearly ready. It was agreed upon, at least with us, with the US, when the strike on the 3rd of January came in the Baghdad airport, and not to take that and to ignore it and not to take that into account in the whole context was impossible. And we said that we can propose amendments to the presidential statement, but those amendments surely would not be acceptable to our US colleagues.
Nega Hekmati, a U.S. citizen who was born in Iran, says she and her family were held by U.S. authorities at a U.S.-Canada border crossing in Blaine, Washington. The family found itself in a room filled with fellow Iranian Americans, many of whom had already been held for hours.
As soon as they realized that we were born in Iran, they lead us to the office and they held us there for 5 hours. They asked many questions, many personal questions, like our Facebook account and like my parents' full name, birth date, and my uncles who are in US. They asked about my cousins, everything. Our kids were so anxious, they didn't go to sleep because they were afraid that if they sleep, we probably they're gonna take us to the jail and they wake up not seeing us. That was not right, I think. The comment that my daughter was giving me is that please don't talk Farsi, don't speak Farsi. Maybe they wouldn't know that we're Iranian and they won't help us or put us in jail or something like that, which is not okay. And I'm here, I'm as an immigrant, I'm used to these stuff, unfortunately, but I'm here today because of my kids. They shouldn't experience such thing. They are US citizens, and this is not okay, and it shouldn't be okay for them.
We have been in touch with a number of people.
More than 100 people of Iranian descent appear to have faced similar delays at Washington's border with Canada over the weekend, a process Governor Jay Inslee described on Monday as the inappropriate detention of people, some of them United States citizens who had done nothing wrong. The stepped-up border screenings came in the wake of an American drone strike on Friday that killed a powerful Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, from which Iran's supreme leader vowed severe revenge.
I'm here today because of my kids. They shouldn't.
President Rodrigo Duterte, he expressed concern over the safety of millions of Filipinos in the Middle East as he asked Congress to hold a special session to tackle the increasing tension between the United States and Iran.
There is an evolving crisis somewhere. We do not know what would be the end result of this crisis. It could lead to a protracted war. It could be a wide-scale strike. But whatever it is, we Filipinos are really in grave peril. Get some of the men with integrity.
In a speech, President Duterte said he is expecting Iran to retaliate soon and act aggressively against the U.S. after an American airstrike killed their top general. He also appealed to Congress to set aside a day or two to discuss the effects of the U.S.-Iran conflict, which he called an evolving crisis. The president also raised the possibility of creating an oversight committee to ensure the funds on standby will not be used for corruption.
We have so many millions, nearing 3, I think, of Filipinos working mainly in the Middle East. Kinakabahan ako. Iran seems to be bent on a retaliation, which I think will come. It's a matter of time. There is much hurt and even the loss of pride of the Arabic world. And retaliation or the cry for blood is there. As if we had the money. If it spells the difference between the life and death of Filipinos, Sonny Dominguez says, we have the money. We will buy, borrow, steal. Nakawa natin yung central bank mismo natin. Well, if we have to do it, we will do it. But since you are all here, my dear colleagues in government, I was once a congressman. I don't know where you want to put the money. Ako, ayaw ko. But if there's a thing that would need on standby, that that the government can get immediately, source it from where, so that we can use the money immediately. Ang problema is there are two countries that are really, which is the apple of the pie, the Iranians. It's the Israel and Saudi Arabia. Kung yan ang mangyari, then we have trouble because most of our OFW are stationed. Majority of them are in Saudi Arabia.
A 5.8 magnitude earthquake shook Puerto Rico on Monday, toppling houses and causing power outages and small landslides, but there were no reports of casualties. Here's more.
O sea, la casa se compró hace poquito. Y esta casa tenía de soporte 18 días. O sea, que era una casa fuerte. Pero aún con todo eso, y aún con nosotros, y nos salimos, nos fuimos unos días fuera de la casa porque la realidad es que los temblores que están dando, la casa se jamás queda con juguetes.
Puerto Rico is rocked by a pair of strong earthquakes early this morning, less than 24 hours after Monday's strong quake. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the magnitude 6.4 quake struck just before 4:30 a.m. local time, centered just off the coast of southwest Puerto Rico, about 8 miles west-southwest of Ponce, Puerto Rico's second largest city. No immediate reports of deaths were received as of early Tuesday morning. Governor Wanda Vasquez-Garst closed government offices Tuesday. The Puerto Rico Seismic Network initially issued a tsunami warning for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but that was later canceled. Residents were seen fleeing to higher ground after the warning was issued. NOAA's Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said small tsunami waves of 1 to 2 inches were observed. The quake was followed 10 minutes later by another magnitude 5.6 tumbler, then 4 more aftershocks. Early Monday morning, a magnitude 5.8 quake damaged buildings and triggered landslides. A swarm of 4 dozen quakes have been recorded in a small area near or off the coast of southwest Puerto Rico since December 28, according to the USGS.
A strong earthquake jolted Indonesia's northwest on Tuesday, but no tsunami warning was issued and there were no immediate reports of injuries or damage. The 6.2 magnitude quake struck at a depth of 20 kilometers just off the coast of Simulue Island, west of Sumatra, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Indonesia's Weather and Geophysics Bureau said there was no tsunami threat. People panicked and ran outside their homes when the quake hit. No casualties or infrastructure damage have been reported so far. Indonesia suffers frequent seismic and volcanic activity due to its position on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide.
A tropical cyclone brought heavy rain to the northwestern coast of Australia Tuesday and gusts of 102 kilometers per hour to the town of Broome, causing minimal damage. The Bureau of Meteorology said Blake had brought 15 centimeters of rain in 24 hours to the town of 14,000 people, but had not become a damaging Category 2 storm as expected. The Department of Fire and Emergency Service said there had been 4 reports of damage, including flooding of properties and a tree that fell on a car. Blake is the first tropical cyclone of the season and became a Category 1 storm on Monday. The cyclone is not expected to have an impact on the bushfires currently raging in other parts of the massive country, but could signal a change in hot and dry conditions that have fueled the fires.
Firefighters raced to contain massive bushfires in southern Australia Tuesday, taking advantage of a brief drop in temperatures and some much-needed rainfall before another heat wave strikes later this week. Exhausted volunteers cleared ground vegetation and carried out controlled burns before temperatures and winds were expected to pick up again by Friday. New South Wales Rural Fire Service Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons described current conditions as much more favorable, but warned we are expecting hotter weather to return later in the week. Dozens of vast blazes continue to burn out of control across the east of the country, and there are growing fears that 2 fires in New South Wales and Victoria could connect to form another uncontrollable mega blaze. Rainfall on Monday offered modest relief, but it was not heavy enough in most areas to extinguish the fires, and in some places it hampered firefighters' preparations by making back burning more difficult. 25 people have died since the start of the disaster in September. More than 1,800 homes have been destroyed, and some 8 million hectares, or that's 80,000 square kilometers, has burned an area the size of Ireland or South Carolina. Smoke from the fires have been spotted more than 12,000 kilometers away in Chile and Argentina, weather authorities in the South American country said. The cost of the disaster is still not clear, but the Insurance Council of Australia said claims worth 700 million Australian dollars had already been filed, and the figure was expected to climb significantly.
The smoke that comes from raging bushfires in Australia could be seen some 12,000 kilometers or 7,400 miles away in Chile, as footage filmed in Santiago on Monday shows. Take a look. A meteorological throw is believed to have served as a conduit through which the smoke traveled across the Pacific Ocean. At least 25 people and around 500 million animals have reportedly died since the fires began as a result of a record-breaking heat wave in September, with around 5 million hectares affected.
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
Tungkulin ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents. Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG. Dapat may...
Chief Executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, expressed her hopes that all district councillors attend a meeting with Chief Secretary Matthew Kin Chung after opposition candidates took control of 17 out of 18 districts in last year's November elections in Hong Kong on Tuesday.
District councils are important components in Hong Kong's political structure. They are there to provide us with advice, I hope pertinent advice on district affairs, and also to look after some district minor works and community participation projects. So we will offer to the district councils, regardless of their political makeup, whatever support that we used to have. So the extension or the invitation sent out by the Chief Secretary for Administration is part of that established practice, especially to give new district council members a good briefing on the roles and functions of the district councils and how we intend to cooperate with them in future. It's of course a pity that I noticed that many district council members belonging to some political parties or groups have said in public that they will not attend this briefing. I hope they will change their mind.
Newly elected district councillors have been invited to attend a briefing session hosted by Chief Secretary Matthew Chung, though many from the pro-democracy camp have vowed to boycott it.
The target of the guests invited to the Government House reception were retirees. They were going to step down from a district council, and myself and my principal officials thought it was a good idea for us to personally thank them for their support in the last 4 years. So the two events should not be compared or contrasted in the way that it has been done in some quarters.
At least 8 people died Tuesday after a fire swept through cabins housing migrant workers at a greenhouse facility outside Moscow, Russian news agencies reported. The fire at the facility in the Ramensky district southeast of Moscow broke out in the early hours. Agencies quoted the emergencies ministry as saying the fire spread over 240 square meters or 2,600 square feet through metal cabins housing the workers, RIA Novosti and TASS reported. Interfax quoted the ministry as saying all the dead were citizens of the ex-Soviet Central Asian nation of Tajikistan. It was unclear how many workers were living in the complex. The ministry said the fire was under control and that an investigation had been opened. Millions of migrant workers from Central Asia live in Russia, where they often perform menial jobs for low pay under lax safety conditions.
Americans traveling in China should avoid animals in contact with sick people as the country grapples with a mystery pneumonia outbreak, the U.S. Embassy in China said Tuesday. The viral illness was first reported last week in Wuhan, a central Chinese city with a population of over 11 million, and has since grown to at least 59 cases. Chinese health officials have ruled out a resurgence of the highly contagious SARS virus, which killed hundreds more a decade ago after fears spread online that it had made a comeback. The outbreak of pneumonia comes just a few weeks before China's busiest travel season of the year, when millions of people take buses, trains and planes for Lunar New Year. The upcoming holiday has prompted concerns in Taiwan, where Vice Premier Chen Chi-mai has urged the island's Health and Welfare Ministry to strengthen quarantine controls and airports and plan properly. On Monday, Taiwan Center for Disease Control also advised residents planning to travel to or near Wuhan to wear masks and avoid contact with wild animals. In Hong Kong, authorities say 30 people have been hospitalized after returning from Wuhan in recent days and displaying flu-like illnesses, but none were confirmed to have contracted the mystery new strain. 13 of them have been discharged, said Hong Kong authorities Tuesday. Nonetheless, officials have raised the alert level to serious and rolled out extra monitoring measures. So far, none of the 59 patients infected with pneumonia have died, though 7 are seriously ill, according to Wuhan's Health Commission.
The sexual assault of a student at a top university in Bangladesh triggered angry protests in Bangladesh, with demonstrators urging the death penalty for convicted rapists. The victim in Sunday's attack was traveling to a friend's home when she was gagged, taken to a remote area in Dhaka's outskirts, and sexually assaulted. Local rights group and Salish Kendra said that there were 1,413 reported rape cases in Bangladesh last year, double the number recorded in 2018. Dozens of victims were killed while 10 committed suicide after they were attacked. Nationwide protests gripped Bangladesh in April after a 19-year-old student who accused her seminary's head teacher of sexual harassment was doused in kerosene and set on fire. 16 people were later sentenced to death over the attack, including the teacher.
A Cypriot court on Tuesday handed a British teenager a 4-month suspended prison sentence after convicting her of falsely accusing a dozen Israeli tourists of gang rape. The 19-year-old, who could have faced up to a year in jail, smiled and hugged family at the end of a trial that sparked protests in Britain and calls for tourists to boycott the island. Lawyers for the woman, whom AFP is not naming, say she was raped in the seaside resort of Ayia Napa by 12 Israeli teenagers in their hotel room on July 17. She fled in distress to her own hotel and was examined by an in-house doctor who called the police. The dozen young men and boys aged between 15 to 20 arrested over the incident were freed after she signed a retraction statement 10 days later. The woman maintains she was raped after having consensual sex with one of the Israelis, but forced to change her account under pressure from the Cypriot police. Her legal team says she was denied a lawyer, even a translator, during her interrogation. Judge Michalis Papathanasiou has told the young woman's statements you have given were false, as he convicted her on December 30 of public mischief. He said during the trial that her account was beset by contradictions, confusion, lack of logic, and exaggeration. The convicted British woman's mother and legal team say she has been suffering post-traumatic stress disorder. But she is free to return home after Judge Michalis Papathanasiou told her he was giving her a second chance. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said he has raised concerns over her treatment with the Cypriot authorities after the teenager's conviction provoked outrage in Cyprus and the United Kingdom. Supporters had gathered outside the court on Tuesday holding banners declaring, "We believe you."
The Iglesia ni Cristo's Kabayan Ko Kapatid Ko, or My Countrymen, My Brethren, was relaunched around the world. Let's go over to the United Kingdom, and here's our ABC correspondent, J.D. Season.
It's the start of a new year, and with the holiday season now over, many people are going back to their daily routine. Meanwhile, INC members around the world today are introducing the Iglesia ni Cristo to their fellowmen through an event entitled Kabayan Ko Kapatid Ko, or My Countrymen, My Brethren. Here in Heathrow, United Kingdom, INC members are hosting this event to celebrate and appreciate OFWs, or overseas Filipino workers. Many people from the Philippines look for work abroad and leave their loved ones to give their families much needed financial support. This event is a chance for Filipinos in the UK to feel close to home once again. You can even find a Bahay Kubo, a colorful life-size jeepney specially made by INC members for this activity. There is a Kabayan kitchen consisting of exciting dishes from some of the popular locations in the Philippine Islands, visited by the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Visitors are even treated to giveaways with popular Filipino snacks and useful information to find out more about the Iglesia ni Cristo.
Yeah, it's an amazing event. Everyone very friendly, very welcoming. Excellent. It's all good. It's all very nice, friendly people. I've enjoyed being part of it. Yeah, it's very interesting to see the amount of charity work that the church does and the amount that they distribute and the general work they do for relief in disasters. That's something I didn't know that they did before, so that was interesting. Thank you.
Filipino culture is brought to life with the traditional games, original Christian musical numbers, as well as the INC presentation. From the sights and sounds of Filipino culture brought to life in this exciting event, the INC members in Heathrow, United Kingdom have made a kind effort to appreciate the hard-working OFWs and introduce all to the Iglesia ni Cristo. Reporting from EBC United Kingdom, I'm J.D. Season and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, J.D. Let's head on now to Thailand for the relaunching of the Kabayan Ko Kapatid Ko. Here's Fatima Barte.
We are here today in Anaracha Prasit School, Nonthaburi, Thailand, to witness the members of religious organization Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, as they join its worldwide event Kabayan Ko Kapatid Ko, or My Countrymen, My Brethren. Gathered here today are members from Metro Bangkok area, together with their guests, relatives, and friends.
Warm smiles welcomed the guests as they entered the place. The event started with a video presentation of Kabayan Ko Kapatid Ko, which was conducted worldwide voluntarily whenever calamities struck areas where immediate help is needed. The attendees watched eagerly, that opened their curiosity about the Iglesia ni Cristo and its socio-civic activities. It was followed by the preaching of holy words led by a minister of the gospel, Brother Willen Regalado. For most OFWs, Sunday is all about relaxation after a week of daily grind. That's why the event was followed by entertainment and distribution of refreshments, all for free. The crowd can't help but sing along with the performers. A heart-stopping yet full of comedy acrobatic show by the Velasco siblings filled the venue with laughter and fun. Truly an entertainment for all ages.
Na-experience ko po na makapunta sa ganitong event. So nagpapasalamat rin po ako sa kapwa teacher ko na nag-invite sa akin yung Iglesia ni Cristo teachings on pakinggan ko po ng maayos.
This is my first time to attend this kind of event. We just want to thank Teacher Vicky for inviting us here. Actually, it's only my 3 months here in Thailand and I'm overwhelmed to be part of this event. Thank you.
Ako po si M. So, si Tita Vicky po yung nag-invite sa akin. So, thank you very much po sa INC for inviting us. Hindi po to yung first time ko, pero lagi akong, pag na-invite ako ni Tita sumasama ko kasi masaya po.
Ang distrito ng Thailand ay kaisa na pamamahala sa loob ng iglesia sa ganitong mga pambuong mundong aktibidad. Ang relaunching ng Kabayan Ko, Kapatid Ko. Halos lahat ng mga kapatid sa distritong ito ay dumalo, nakipagkaisa. Kahit sa maikling sandali ay mapasaya natin sila, mapangiti sila. At nagpapasalamat tayo sa pamamahala sa loob ng iglesia sa paglulunsad ng ganitong mga aktibidad. Pangako natin sa buong distrito, sa pangunguna ng ating tagapangasiwa na distrito, kapatid na Willen Regalado, at ng mga ministro, mga may tungkulin, lahat ng mga kapatid, kaisa tayo sa pagsisimula na taong ito sa pinaigting palalo na gawaing pagpapalaganap ng mga salita ng Diyos.
With the aim of extending help to their countrymen wherever they are in the world, the church administration continues to launch this kind of activity. Members didn't mind traveling and actively participated in welcoming the guests with smiles. Reporting from Nonthaburi, Thailand, this is Fatima Barte and I am 1 with 25.
Thanks, Fatima. Let's now go to Washington, D.C. for the relaunching of My Countrymen, My Brethren. Here's Chris Gonzalez.
Church of Christ congregations across the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, or DMV region, started the year by reaching out to communities in their area. Families and individuals, through another community-oriented project sponsored by the church called My Countrymen, My Brethren, received care packages from congregations near their homes. A series of outreach events happened in several cities here, including Gaithersburg, Temple Hills, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. This worldwide project of the church has already helped thousands of people around the globe, especially those hard hit by calamities and households that are poverty-stricken. From Washington, D.C., I am Chris Gonzalez, Eagle News, 1 with 25.
More news to come as we come back here at Eagle News International.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Equities rebounded while oil and safe haven gold retreated Tuesday as fears of a Middle East conflict abated for now, but investors remained on alert for any escalation after the U.S. assassination of a top Iranian general. With few major developments in the crisis fueled by the killing of Qasem Soleimani last week, traders were able to turn their attention back to the global economic outlook and the U.S.-China trade deal signing planned for January 15. Wall Street provided a positive lead, with all three main indexes reversing early losses to end in the green as traders welcomed strong service sector data from the U.S., Europe, and Britain that provided hope that the worldwide growth slowdown was easing. Asian markets were broadly higher, with Tokyo ending 1.6% up, Hong Kong adding 0.3% and Shanghai rising 0.7%. Sydney climbed more than 1%, while Seoul jumped 1% and Singapore on a 0.7%. Manila, Mumbai, and Bangkok were also up, while Wellington was marginally higher and Taipei eased slightly.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk presented their first batch of made-in-China cars to ordinary buyers on Tuesday in a milestone for the company's new Shanghai Gigafactory, but which comes as sales decelerate in the world's largest electric vehicle market. The eccentric entrepreneur danced awkwardly, gave out high fives, and mugged on a stage as sleek Model 3 sedans. The company's mid-price mass market offer were driven up one by one and presented to buyers who jumped into the back seats before being driven away at the plant. The factory is the company's first outside the United States and a key step forward in Musk's strategy of going global. Musk said it was just the start of what will be a growing investment in China by the California-based electric vehicle pioneer.
We intend to continue making a significant investment and increasing the investment in China, making the Model 3 and the Model Y and future models also in China. And I think something that would be, super cool would be to, and so we're going to do it, we're going to try to do it, is to create a China Design and Engineering Center to actually design an original car in China for worldwide consumption.
Robots light up the 2020 Consumer Electronics Show, or CES pre-show, one day before Tuesday's official opening of the world's biggest consumer tech expo. The show opens against a backdrop of mounting concern over how data gathered from connected devices can be exploited by marketers, governments, and hackers. The Consumer Electronics Show, opening Tuesday, offers a chance to showcase the newest and shiniest gadgetry, looking past the turmoil engulfing the global technology industry. The annual Las Vegas gathering, with more than 4,500 exhibitors, brings out about 175,000 attendees searching for innovations of the future. For an industry facing unprecedented turbulence, the hope is that what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas after it closes on Friday, but filters into the world where consumers can adopt new technologies for health, communication, transportation, and home and lifestyles.
I think it starts today. I think robots are definitely been around in overseas market, but for the U.S. it's starting to grow, and you'll definitely see Cruiser and all enterprise products, in stores, especially for the big retail shops and in hotels today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Gym, so by the more you do an exercise, the better you become at it and the more you recover. So that is kind of the whole basis behind gamification, but it's also measurable. So at the very end of each of the games, it will provide you with a measurable report that will say you did X% better, you were 5% more accurate, you were 4 seconds faster, you completed this in a better way than you did last time, so you can track your progress.
You know, the traditional education system is based on one size fits all, and we want to change that. Using the power of AI, we want to focus on the child's ability and interest, and that's what Roby does actually.
Tech analysts say security and personal data protection for connected devices are priorities to consumers and brands as the Consumer Electronics Show 2020, or CES, kicks off this Tuesday in Las Vegas.
I think that there's still, from your general consumer, a lack of understanding a little bit of how security within the home should play a bigger role. I always joke about, it's like, you're putting on Facebook that you're going to be on holiday for 3 weeks and your house is basically empty for any burglar to come in, right? We still have a love and hate relationship with security. Most brands are not just talking marketing. Most brands are actually using platforms that increase the security from connected devices and lower the threat of bad players taking advantage of, say, your connected oven to come into the home and disrupt your safety.
While we all want security, we're all also willing to give up certain pieces of security for certain things that are of value to us. And that equation, the value versus security equation for consumers, is still developing. And that, I think, is the big challenge that we all face in the next few years, is that more and more companies are giving you ways to manage your own security, privacy centers where you can turn things on and off, and that's a great start, but in a lot of ways it's complicated, and a lot of people don't have the savvy or the time or the interest to manage some of those complicated interfaces and to understand all the implications.
Sony unveils an electronic vehicle prototype named Vision S at the CES Technology Conference in Las Vegas.
This prototype embodies our contribution to the future of mobility and contains a variety of Sony's technologies. There are 33 sensors to monitor the outside and inside of the car. It's built on a newly designed EV platform, allowing for future applications in other vehicle types, such as SUVs.
Meanwhile, Jim Ryan, President and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, teases the audience with the PS5's new logo. Take a look.
And it's our mission to embrace the entire creative community, elevating their content on our platform for PlayStation fans. That commitment will carry us through as we embark on the launch of our next generation console, PlayStation 5. Coming this holiday. And I'm pleased to share with you today, for the first time, our new logo. PS5 will inspire developers to create expansive worlds with new gameplay experiences that are more immersive than ever before in how they look, sound, and feel.
President and CEO of Samsung Consumer Electronics Division, H.S. Kim, presents Bally, a personal assistant robot, during his keynote address at the CES 2020 in Las Vegas.
This is a feature of a new
personal care. Designed to make your life just a bit easier. This is a different and exciting future. New devices and technologies like robots that are like companions, helping you live a fuller, happier life. Intelligent robots that live by your side and react to your needs every day. Robots that know you, support you, and take care of you so you can focus on what really matters.
SpaceX launched its third batch of 60 mini satellites into orbit, part of its plans to build a giant constellation of thousands of spacecraft that will form a global broadband internet system. The cluster of 60 satellites separated successfully from a Falcon 9 rocket above the ocean between Australia and Antarctica an hour after its launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida at 9:19 p.m. A satellite deployment brings the total number of satellites that are part of the U.S. company's Starlink network to just under 180. SpaceX's goal is to control a huge share of the future internet market from space. Several rivals have the same ambition, including London-based startup OneWeb and giant U.S. retailer Amazon, whose project Clipper is far less advanced. Elon Musk hopes eventually to control 3 of 5% of the global internet market, a share valued at $30 billion a year, or 10 times what SpaceX is earning from its space launches, and plow the profits back into rocket and spaceship development. SpaceX says its satellite constellation will be operational for Canada and the northern U.S. by next year. Astronomers say the proliferation of the bright metallic satellites could seriously degrade the night view, interfering with both optical and radio astronomy. But SpaceX argues it has taken steps to reduce the satellite's reflectivity and is testing an experimental darkening treatment on one of the satellites.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards in Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's the news for tonight. I'm Myla Simbulan from Philadelphia Bureau.
Myla?
And we are one with
25.